Hi, so today I would like to focus on sacred geometry and runes and what is the connection. It's best to go straight into images and discuss the basics, and then I will share some personal stories that I've had with sacred geometry and runes. So the runes are probably much more ancient, but in mainstream archaeology they are believed to have derived from the Etruscan ancient Italian alphabet. The oldest set, the Elder Futhark, later expanded into Central Europe and then further into Scandinavia. In Norse mythology, we meet the runes in the hands of the three giantesses called Norns, who carved them into the world tree while setting its destiny. But the knowledge of the runes was brought forth by the god Odin, who received them as gifts of ancestral wisdom on a shamanic journey to the well located at the roots of the world tree. As for the meanings behind each of the runes, these were derived from the medieval Norse and Anglo-Saxon rune poems, but their history and wisdom is much deeper. To the ancient peoples, the runes were not just an alphabet or fortune-telling tools. They were actually codes to understanding nature and creation as such. They are a part of the grids that hold the structures of realities together, and each of the runes encodes a different part of the whole. When we establish a magical connection with the runes, we start to see them everywhere, in the natural setting, cities, arts, and so forth. And once we become more familiar with them, the runes provide us with more personalized meanings. All the other runes can be constructed from Isa and Kenas. And here we can see that if we put Isa and Kenas together, it becomes a triangle. Essentially, they represent the two basic elements of Norse mythology, which is ice and fire. So Isa and Kenas are really the core runes, the basic runes, and not only in meaning, but also in shape. So that's one of the connections. Another connection is that some runes actually resemble geometries. For example, rune Ingvas is basically a diamond shape or rhombus. The rune Gebo is a diagonal cross. Also, the two most protective or shielding runes, Algis and Thurisas, can both be seen in the 8-pointed star. Here we can see the Algis. There are 8 Algis runes in this version of the 8-pointed star. And there are 8 Thurisas runes in this version of the 8-pointed star. Here we can see that all the runes of the Elder Futhark can be derived from the hexagon, and the 6-pointed star, or also called the snowflake star. The snowflake star is really important in Norse mythology, but also in other ancient cultures, because it often represented the tree of life. It has this like core trunk and the branches and roots. Symbolically, the branches facing up, the roots facing down. And also in the younger version of the Futhark runes, this snowflake star is the rune Hagalas, which has a lot to do with the creation of worlds. This great symbol contains all the Elder Futhark runes. I created this after a challenge. One of my friends challenged me to create this symbol or this grid that would contain all the runes. And of course, as you can see, it's hexagonal in shape. But not only, there are other geometries. And because all the runes can be derived from the hexagon, but it's not pitch perfect, you need to either extend some sides or some lines or shorten them. So this great symbol contains all the runes quite well, I would say. Here you can see the runes in nature. As you can see, they can be observed in stone, in tree branches, tree trunks, in blades of grass, also in straws in the fields or meadows, Random branches that fall down on the ground can create runes. They can also be observed in roots of trees and other places. And here is just an example of how all the runes can be exercised as postures. So I actually was interested in the runes before I was in sacred geometry, because my husband brought the runes into my life. I met my husband when I was about 19, and we've been together since. So we really like grew up together. And he's Icelandic, so the runes and these like Norse magic traditions are quite like natural for him. He was always interested in it, so he introduced me to the runes, and I was interested in them, and I did study them, but I became like really interested in them only once I discovered sacred geometry, because then I saw the connections. And for me, anything that is connected to nature is like something I trust. So when it comes to spirituality or magic, like when it has its roots in nature or studying nature, that's something that strikes my interest, because I feel like there's some truth there. So when I realized that, sacred geometry is everywhere in nature, around us, within us, around us, and so are the runes, because the runes derive from geometries, as we saw in the images. And especially the hexagons and the six-pointed star, the snowflake star, and I mean also pentagons, pentagrams, some runes can be derived from those. And also the triangles and the square, the rhombus, like the basic sacred geometry or geometrical shapes are in the runes. And also, just like sacred geometry, runes are everywhere around us. When we go to some natural environment, we begin to notice them. And when I put these connections together, it started like this new period in my life when I would just be fascinated whenever I went for a walk in the forest or in the meadow or just in the countryside, because I suddenly started to see these symbols and shapes as synchronicity, and not just the sacred geometry symbols, but also the runes, and usually in combinations, because there's some magic about these combinations. So like I would see like the triangles and then some runes, and I would make the connection like with the meanings, like what does the triangle represent, what does this rune represent, and I would like give messages. So every walk was like kind of a divination for me. When I went with the intention to receive an answer to some question or some guidance or some advice, then it was even clearer. But sometimes it happened even when I had no intention of receiving some message. And then it's usually really important, like especially when I see the rune like 3 times, I take that as a very important message when it happens 3 times in a row or 3 times during that walk. And I just thought this is like the most fun way to practice divination, because you can connect it like with taking a walk and being in some natural environment. But another way that I personally love is to throw sticks or throw branches, because when you have at least 9 branches and you throw them, you start to observe runes, because runes are especially seen in branches, trees, and straws also, or blades of grass. So they are. It's like to use sticks or dry stalks or branches is the best. And this is actually the first runic divination method, it seems, that we know of, because Tacitus wrote, the Roman historian, he wrote about the Germanic people, and he wrote that this is the way they perform divination with the runes, was to throw sticks or branches and then observe the shapes. And so that's like, since I've tried that, I stick with that. Of course, it's great to also have runic stones. I have those too, and it's especially powerful if you create them yourself. If you collect the stones, maybe in some environment that means something to you, or and then if you draw the runes, there's your own energy in that set of runes, so that's also really powerful. But the sticks, like, what I love about the sticks is that then you see combinations. You may see also other shapes, like geometric shapes with the runes, and the combinations are important. Or if you see like more runes in that one like reading, or if you see like some rune is facing right, some left, that has a meaning, or facing upward, downward. In my experience, when the rune faces right, it's connected to the future event and the active principle of our conscious mind. And when it faces left, it's connected to the past events, or the subconscious mind, and the passive mind. And it's interesting that in some like old carvings, we can see the runes like facing left, not right. In some Etruscan, ancient Italian, I noticed that, especially that they usually face left. So there could have been a meaning, magical meaning back then to that as well. And I mean, some runes, they're quite steady, so they face both right and left. But then it's maybe important if they are upward or downward. And again, like the upward is like usually connected to the conscious mind, and the downward to subconscious mind. So like in this sense, it's good to have these sticks or the branches, because then you can also read like these different like symbolisms that are maybe like in that reading. And what I also love about the runes is that they are not only fortune telling tools. They are like, I find more depth behind them. It's like these codes of creation. And when you look deeper into their symbolism, there really could be something like that. It's like this set of codes that maybe hide some secrets behind how realities or matrices or worlds are created. But that's a more like mystical, deeper like sense. A more practical side of the runes is also that they are wonderful symbols for manifestation, for energy healing, and for shielding. And it's wonderful, like if we can bind them with sacred geometry. The so-called bind runes have been practiced a lot for like shielding purposes, or manifesting or attracting love or energy healing, because you bind runes of certain significance or of certain meanings together for a desired outcome. So for example, if you wish to attract more abundance, or you need more finances, you would bind rune Fehu with, for example, a square, or 8-pointed star. Or if you wish to attract like a ceaseless flow of abundance, then also the pentagram, or some asymmetrical symbol. So there are like more ways to combine them. I have a whole book on this, the supercharged symbols, where I combine geometries with runes for specific wishes or intentions. But there's like so many ways to approach this, and especially like if you like to create something, if you are into arts or crafts, it's just such a wonderful way to like give it this spiritual extra charge, to use the runes or the sacred geometry symbols, and or to make tokens, talismans. And it's enough to like just look at the rune and make that wish or make that affirmation. There are also runic postures that we can exercise. Also sacred geometry symbols can be exercised as postures or as hand gestures. But that's all in my new book. So if you're interested if you're interested about that, please check out my book. And if you have your own experiences you would like to share with the runes and sacred geometry and maybe the combinations, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your experiences. And yeah, see you later.